The tax abatement for master brand cabinets has been formally approved. We'll have more on that. Plus, propane shortages continue to wreak havoc in Du Bois and surrounding counties. Hear what you can do to help the problem. And Purdue Extension educator Jan Dugan discusses heart-healthy sodium diets tonight on Inform. All of that and much more is up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Hello, I'm Bradford Raths. We begin tonight with a Ferdinand family being displaced from their home due to an early morning fire. Firefighters with the Ferdinand Volunteer Fire Department were called to a home in the 6700 block of East County Road 700 South near the Ferdinand State Forest just after 3:40 a.m. this morning on a report of a home that was on fire. Ferdinand Fire Chief Dan Lindauer says the one-story home, which is owned by Lester Rashi, was totally engulfed in flames when fire crews arrived on the scene. He says more than half of the roof area was completely burned through on the home. Lindauer says everyone in the home had gotten out safely before crews arrived and no injuries were reported. He says the cause of the fire is under investigation, though he says a wood-burning area or an electrical problem may have been the cause. The home is considered a total loss at this point. Lindauer says investigators will go to the site at a later date to come up with a more definitive cause for the fire. The Ferdinand Fire Department responded with 5 trucks and 27 men, and they were on scene for 3.5 hours. A tanker truck and 8 firefighters from the St. Anthony Fire Department, Du Bois REC, and the Du Bois County Sheriff's Department also assisted. Jasper Police were kept busy over the last 24 hours, having made a pair of criminal arrests. A Jasper man was taken into custody after police say he molested a 7-year-old boy. Jasper Police are saying a lengthy investigation found that 44-year-old Brian Higgins had inappropriately touched a 7-year-old boy that was being cared for at his address in the 1000 block of Edwards Street by his live-in girlfriend. The girlfriend was not home at the time of the incident, according to police. The investigation also found that Higgins tried to get the child to touch him in an inappropriate area. Higgins was taken into custody and was lodged in the Du Bois County Security Center. He is facing a Class C felony for child molestation and a Class D felony for child solicitation. Police say additional charges are possible as the investigation continues. The Du Bois County Prosecutor's Office and Indiana Child and Protective Services assisted with this investigation. Then, a Maryland man was taken into custody after it was found that he threatened a man inside of a Southside Jasper restaurant. Police were called to the Blimpie on Jasper's South Side at 6:15 p.m. last night after a man called in to say another man had threatened him with a knife. The suspect, later identified as 33-year-old David Dillon of Frostburg, Maryland, left the restaurant in a semi. Dillon was stopped by Du Bois County Sheriff's deputies near the intersection of 28th and Newton Streets on Jasper's north side. He was lodged in the Du Bois County Security Center on a Class C felony for intimidation with a deadly weapon. Formal approval has been given for a tax abatement to master brand cabinets. Last night, the Ferdinand Town Council signed documents approving the abatement. Master brand officials say the company plans to invest $1.1 million in new equipment to expand its plant in Ferdinand. Company officials also say 135 new jobs will be coming to town. The news is a positive for the town of Ferdinand following an announcement last month that Mobile Incorporated would be closing its doors within 30 days, resulting in the loss of 60 jobs. Ferdinand Town Council President Ken Seacard says the similarities between Mobile and Master Brand could actually work in favor of the Mobile employees.
The good thing is they were both woodworking, so very possibly, they're going to work to get some of those people on. In fact, Work One is actually working with the company involved that's shutting down and getting a day set up. I think it's February 25th, where Master Brand, Best Home Furnishings, and Jasper Engine and Transmissions are coming in to interview their employees and see if there's jobs there available for them. So hopefully all these people will have jobs before the end of the day and not really end up sitting around with no work.
Seacard says there isn't a lot that can be done when companies like Mobile close their doors. He says the biggest thing that the community can do is to replace those jobs that are lost. Also last night, Seacard once again addressed the topic of the business personal property tax and its effect on Ferdinand. He stated that he learned prior to last night's meeting of 2 proposed changes to the elimination of the tax. One of those changes would have any business that makes $25,000 or less per year being exempt from paying the tax. The other change would be that the state would make up the difference in revenue. C-Card once again stated that Ferdinand could stand to lose $125,000 or 18% of its budget should the tax be eliminated. Because of that potential for lost revenue, even with the proposed change, C-Card is still not in favor of the tax. However, he says there is a compromise that might change his mind.
If you take it away, it's got to be replaced with something that delivers money. First they brought up that, we'll rescind this and then we can go on the local level. Well, the problem is if you go start, raising personal property taxes, then the tax abatement that came in back in 2008 will start to have an effect, and we're not going to get $125,000 because some of our homes are going to hit that limit, and then we lose that money. And then, we may not lose $125,000, but eventually it becomes very hard to keep the services going that you have with less money.
In final notes, the council approved the hiring of 5 new reserve officers for the Ferdinand Police Department. Due to 2 officers already being in the reserve program, the council also voted to amend a town ordinance that will allow for 7 officers to be in the reserve program going forward. The new officers will be going to basic training on February 25th in Cannleton so that they can be on the force as soon as possible. The plan to make DuBois County a vote center county is continuing to take shape. Members of the committee to decide on how the county would switch from traditional neighborhood polling precincts to centralized vote centers gathered last night to discuss some possible changes to the proposed idea. The bipartisan committee, comprised of members of the DuBois County Election Board, elected county officials, and the 2-party chairman for the county, spent the past year looking at the feasibility of switching to vote centers and how they could benefit by replacing traditional neighborhood polling precincts. Last night's committee members on hand in the commissioner's room at the DuBois County Courthouse Annex took a look at the summary of the vote center plans for the county. Under the original proposal, 2 vote centers would be in Jasper and the other 5 would be in Huntingburg, Ferdinand, DuBois, Schnellville, and Holland, respectively. The committee feels the voting centers would provide a huge cost savings for the county. Last month, 4 town meetings in various districts of the county were held to receive feedback from residents in those areas. Many of the concerns that were fielded came from residents in the Birdseye community who felt that geographically the centers were not in their best interests. As a result, committee members made the recommendation to move the proposed vote center in Schnellville to Birdseye and to add an additional vote center in Celestine to provide for the Schnellville voters. DuBois County Clerk Bridget Jarboe says the addition of another vote center will be a benefit to concerned voters in the southeastern portion of DuBois County.
It will take care of the voters of DuBois County by adding the extra vote center and moving it out to Birdseye. You're going to reach out. We should be reaching out to more people.
Jarboe says the next step is for a study committee to gather and look at the complete plan along with the proposed revisions, put a draft together, and hold another public meeting for the plan to be reviewed before a decision is made and the plan submitted to the state. Additionally, a resolution will eventually be made out, and that resolution will be signed by members of both the DuBois County Commissioners and the County Council. Shortages of propane statewide continue to have a heavy impact on DuBois County's livestock farmers, among others. Purdue Extension Ag Agent Ken X says several factors have contributed to the shortages, including extreme weather of recent and the exporting of propane to other countries. X says all of that combined makes it hard on the livestock.
What's really affecting farmers in this county, and this county is especially hard hit because of the animal numbers. We're the leading livestock producing county in the state of Indiana, and with that we have a lot of poultry and swine, and when you have small animals, especially small chicks, small turkeys, and small piglets, the loss of heat really affects them severely. In some cases it could be possibility of death if they're not taken care of. So the grain farmers aren't going to be affected as much, but it's the livestock farmers in this county that are really having a tough time right now.
X says prices on propane are also to blame. In Indiana, the average price for a gallon of propane has gone up over the $4 per gallon mark within the last couple of weeks. It previously had been at $2.96. Homeowners have also been dealing with the shortages. X says about 10% of people across the state utilize propane to heat their homes. He says although most of that 10% live in rural areas, those folks are still feeling the pain. He says there are a couple of basic things that people can do to conserve.
Basic things would be, first of all, of course, reducing the temperature in your home if you can. Some people like it really warm in there, but sometimes putting on a couple extra layers of clothes or socks or whatever you might need to keep you warm can help reduce the amount of LP gas you're going to need and slow down the amount you're going to need for now until the spring season starts. Look at maybe insulated curtains. Try to keep those curtains drawn at night. It keeps the heat trapped inside the house, whether you're out in the country or in the city someplace. Look for alternative ways to heat the home. If you have an old wood stove that is safe with a safe chimney, it's been cleaned the last year or two.
X says strategic heating of your home, such as significantly lowering the inside temperature when you're not at home, can also go a long way towards saving the extra gallons of propane. Propane shortages have become such a problem statewide that the state has started to offer assistance through the Attorney General's office. Folks whose propane tank supply is at 10% or less and they cannot contact their supplier will be able to call 1-800-382-5516 for help. The Attorney General's office has said it will be working with suppliers to help customers resolve propane delivery issues. Now, Purdue Extension is also pitching in with websites offering tips geared towards homeowners and farmers. X says there are several different options, including a specialist that can come out to farms and help to find the best heating solution for a particular location. To find the website, you can go to google.com and type in Purdue Propane Conservation. One area community is set to apply for a state-based funding program for improvements. Officials with the city of Huntingburg say the city is putting in an application for the 2014 Stellar Communities program in Indiana. The program, which is a partnership with the Indiana Department of Transportation, the Housing and Community Development Authority, and the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, is designed to give funding to designated smaller communities across the state for comprehensive development projects. In a news release, Huntingburg Mayor Denny Spinner says the application process for the Stellar Communities program takes public feedback that's been gathered during listening sessions that were held a couple of years ago and accelerates the movement to the implementation phase. He says being designated as a stellar community would allow Huntingburg to continue moving in a positive direction. Communities that are interested in applying are required to send in a letter of interest, and those letters are then evaluated by a selection committee. Finalists for the Stellar Communities designation are set to be announced next month, and finalist communities will then have to send in a strategic investment plan. The selection committee then visits and evaluates each of those finalist communities, and 2 of those are chosen as stellar communities. As part of the process, Huntingburg will be hosting an open house event next week. That event is slated to take place at the Huntingburg Event Center from 5 till 7 p.m. next Tuesday, February the 18th. The event is open to the public. In final notes this evening, officials with Du Bois REC say they have been notified that calls are being made to area businesses demanding payment to prevent their electricity from being shut off. They say these calls are a scam and should be reported to local authorities. REC General Manager Donald Book says if a utility customer receives one of these calls and feels pressured for immediate payment or personal information, they should hang up the phone and call the customer service number on the utility bill. Book says this will ensure customers that they are speaking to a real representative. Folks can contact Du Bois REC at 482-5454 with further questions or concerns. All right, coming up after the break, your local forecast, sports with Kurt Guxell, and Inform featuring Purdue Extension educator Jan Dugan. That's all up next here on the 18 WJTS News. Local people watching local people.